Amid all of the big-budget RPGs, looter shooters, and free-to-play titles of our time, there are a number of role-playing games which have faded into history. Many are still excellent to this day or enjoy a small but passionate group of fans. So let's take a look at 15 of those RPGs here and see what makes them worth playing. Shadow Hearts from the New World. Imagine an alternate reality Prohibition-era America with ninjas, talking cats, vampires, and of course demons. That's Shadow Hearts from the New World in a nutshell, as players assume the role of teenager P.I. Johnny Garland. The game starts in a fixed path, but quickly expands after a job that Johnny takes quickly goes off the rails. With a combat system dependent on timed button presses and combos, strange plot twists, and an endearing cast of oddities, From the New World is perhaps the strangest and yet most endearing PS2 RPG of its time. Jade Empire. Back when BioWare used to make good games, Jade Empire was one of its very best. Initially released on Xbox and later for PC, the title took elements from Chinese mythology and history to craft a compelling real-time RPG. A morality system much like Knights of the Old Republic saw players making choices that would develop techniques in either the open palm or closed fist way, along with different endings for both. Jade Empire sold a few 100,000 copies, and despite releasing on the awkward cusp of the next generation, it remains one of BioWare's best. Skies of Arcadia. Sega AM1, later known as Overworks, was known for a variety of different games for arcades and Dreamcast. However, its most well-known Dreamcast title is an RPG called Skies of Arcadia. Set in a world of floating landmasses and sky pirates, Skies of Arcadia has an incredible cast of characters, great combat, and superb storytelling that captures you, despite the somewhat slow start. Though not hugely successful, Skies of Arcadia is a cult classic for fans of the Dreamcast era. Mount and Blade Warband. Mount and Blade Warband is a standalone expansion to the base game, but has cultivated a much stronger community, one that at times borders on fanatical. The amount of freedom on offer is staggering. You can become a mercenary, start a faction, wage war, command your own kingdom, etc., while mod support allows for a variety of different worlds like Lord of the Rings, Warhammer, and you name it. Despite the outdated visuals, Mount and Blade Warband's combat and sheer depth has helped it stay relevant for almost a decade. Grim Dawn. When you hear about action RPGs, it's either Diablo, Warframe, or even Path of Exile that are discussed. However, Crate Entertainment's Grim Dawn is definitely in the same echelon. It's a callback to the Diablo 2 style of hack and slash with its dark atmosphere and methodical but hard-hitting combat. The customization is pretty great thanks to the variety of classes and mixing them into masteries. And the sheer amount of content, from roguelike dungeons to the wave-based Crucible, means you'll sink potentially dozens, if not hundreds of hours into it. The Age of Decadence. In an age where consequences and choice-driven gameplay in an RPG are valued, Iron Tower Studios' The Age of Decadence is often overlooked. Set in a post-apocalyptic world themed after the Roman Empire, the player has numerous choices for how they want to play, whether through combat or pacifism and dialogue. Defining one's playstyle is so important that it's very easy to find yourself at a disadvantage from trying to be a jack of all trades. For its depth and replay value, The Age of Decadence is worth a look. Torment: Tides of Numenera. Developed by In Exile Entertainment, Torment: Tides of Numenera had the unenviable task of trying to follow Planescape Torment. While your mileage may vary on how well it succeeded, especially when it comes to combat, there is no denying that this is a complex, consequence-driven game with some deep characters. The Ninth Age setting plays host to a variety of past civilizations, while players wrestle with powerful psychological entities like the Sorrow. Couple that with intriguing mechanics like tides affecting the world's reactions to your actions, and Torment: Tides of Numenera offers a uniquely complex and memorable experience. Legend of Grimrock 2. Fancy a great dungeon crawler in line with the classics of yore? Well, Almost Human's Legend of Grimrock 2 is it, taking place on a mysterious island where you explore in first person. The world itself is fairly detailed, with tough puzzles and challenging combat. There's not a lot of hand-holding involved either, but the sheer mystery of the experience combined with its excellent gameplay make it worth checking out. Riviera: The Promised Land. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, Atlus released a number of intriguing but niche games. Franchises like Shin Megami Tensei and Persona stood out, but then there were titles like Riviera: The Promised Land. Developed by Sting Entertainment, Riviera was a mix of strategy combat and relationship building, with the player able to bond with a number of companions and changing the ending as a result. The combat was also fairly complex, with formations, the overdrive gauge, and time durability all playing a part. Still, with its unorthodox combat and excellent story, Riviera stands out very well in this day and age. Jeanne d'Arc. A fantasy take on the classic story, Level 5's Jeanne d'Arc originally released for the PSP in 2006 before coming to the West in 2007. It sees Jeanne building up an army to fight back against a demon-possessed King Henry VI to save France. This isn't your average tactical RPG though. Jeanne d'Arc has several interesting mechanics like Unified Guard, where nearby allies can reduce damage for a party member, and burning auras to allow other characters to strike enemies from behind. Don't let its aesthetic fool you. Jeanne d'Arc is a deep role-playing experience with stellar action. Phantom Brave. Much like Atlus, Nippon Ichi Software brought out a number of different titles, namely tactical role-playing games, with only a few like Disgaea really catching on. Phantom Brave is one such example. It's focused on a girl named Marona, who can talk to spirits known as phantoms. She can also confine phantoms to objects, which becomes handy during battles since different objects will boost certain class stats. Mix in movement modifiers like sliding, picking up and throwing characters and enemies like Disgaea, fusions, etc., and Phantom Brave becomes a complex yet involved journey. Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines. The last title from Fallout veterans Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, and Jason Anderson as Troyoka Games, Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines didn't sell very well at launch. That being said, despite the troubled development and technical issues, it's still an incredibly detailed action RPG. You play as a new vampire and have to survive in Los Angeles amid the various factions and clans. Choosing a clan will provide different powers, and it's possible to get through the game as either a murderous psychopath or a smooth negotiator, with varying degrees of success. Excellent writing and a solid narrative raise it up even if the combat has not aged very well. Hopefully the 2020 sequel will fix all of that. Tyranny. What if evil had won? What if you played as a Fatebinder and had to deal with the aftermath, ensuring the Dark Overlord's influence reigned supreme? Tyranny asks these questions and gives you a lot of freedom with regards to how evil you want to be. Decisions can affect who lives and dies, and players are free to customize their character based on how often some skills are used. Just don't go in expecting a sequel after the sudden ending. The Last Story. Ironically, not the last game from Hironobu Sakaguchi-led Mistwalker. The Last Story is perhaps the best RPG that the studio has put out. It takes place in a world that's slowly being whittled away. You control Zale, who's part of a group of mercenaries and are caught up in an island fortress's politics and war with the GRIMROCK. The combat is real-time, with the AI controlling other party members. You can issue commands to them, use the environment against foes, and even employ some stealth by breaking line of sight. Though the story isn't groundbreaking, the characters are likable and the gameplay fun enough to warrant a look. Valkyrie Profile. Tri-Ace's Valkyrie Profile did very well upon release for the PS1 in 1999, but has somewhat been forgotten since then, not counting the recent mobile ports. It's a shame because the gameplay is pretty great, mixing platforming and turn-based combat with players recruiting different warriors for the arrival of Ragnarok. You have to decide which warriors will join the Aesir in Valhalla for the crucial battle, which makes your current survival that much more intriguing. Overall, if you're a fan of well-developed worlds, excellent combat, and some hero management, Valkyrie Profile will scratch that itch. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.